Welcome to Resource Efficiency at Work, a training course designed by Resource Efficient Scotland. The goal of this session is to give you the understanding and knowledge you need to reduce the amount of waste you produce and the energy and water you use. This will cut your organisation's operating costs and therefore help improve your job security. As with many organisations, spending on resources such as energy, water and raw materials increases every year. In many cases, this money is squandered because resources are not used efficiently. This session will last for about 25 minutes and will teach you the basics about improving resource efficiency and how this can make a real difference to your organisation, Scotland's economy and to the environment. By the end of this session, you will understand why we need to prevent waste generation, reduce energy and water consumption because of rising costs, damage to the environment, increasingly stringent legislation and customer pressures. You will also be aware of the legislation that relates to waste in the workplace, and you will know how to identify opportunities to save money. Households across Scotland are making great progress in reducing their environmental impact. Since 1970, the carbon footprint of each home in Britain has reduced by 40%. In addition to this, 90% of households now recycle, and this is increasing every year. However, in Scotland, households only use 13% of the total energy consumed and generate 15% of the waste produced. Therefore, workplaces are responsible for the vast majority of energy used and waste generated. So for every 50-watt bulb being used in your home, there are 12 standard fluorescent tubes on in a business. And for every wheelie bin filled by a household, organisations fill the equivalent of a skip. The rest of this course will cover the basic principles of energy, water and waste management and describe how simple measures can be taken to improve resource efficiency. There are many reasons why organisations should reduce the amount of waste they produce. The best known being the need to stop sending useful resources to increasingly expensive and scarce landfill sites, also known as tips or rubbish dumps. In the past, virtually all waste in Scotland was sent to landfill sites and then buried. Unfortunately, as well as being a senseless waste of potentially useful materials, landfill sites can be dangerous places to people and wildlife. Wind can carry litter away from these sites, which can be dangerous to birds and other animals. And pollution from these sites can enter rivers and streams, killing animals living in the water and whatever feeds on them. If the pollution finds its way into water supplies, it can also be dangerous to human health. Landfill sites also attract pests such as rats and gulls, have a smell that can travel for miles, and it can ruin the look of a local landscape. On top of these local impacts, landfill sites in Scotland produce the equivalent of 2.2 million tonnes of carbon dioxide a year. This has the same impact on climate change as every person in Aberdeen driving around the earth once. By global standards, Scotland is a rich country, and we are using more than our fair share of the world's resources. If everyone in the world used the same amount of natural resources that we do, then 3 planets' worth of materials would be required to satisfy our needs. While we are not at this stage yet, we are using more than one Earth can provide over the long term. And with the speed that developing countries such as China, Brazil and India are catching up with us, using resources in this way cannot continue. Water is a resource that is often wasted without ever being noticed. Just because it falls from the sky, it does not mean it is free and unlimited. The supply and treatment of water needs energy for pumping, treating, distributing, disposing of wastewater, and maintaining the network. The cost for this energy is reflected in our bills. The energy use also means it has a high carbon footprint. Scottish Water has the same annual carbon footprint as that produced by 242 full jumbo jets flying from Scotland to Australia and back again. One of the biggest environmental threats we are facing is that of global warming. Scientific consensus is now strongly linking this to greenhouse gas emissions, the vast majority of which are associated with energy use. This can be through the coal or gas burned in power stations to produce your electricity, or through the fuel used by your boiler. The impacts from global warming are as varied as they are frightening. From the destruction of global heritage sites such as the Great Barrier Reef and the mass extinction of thousands of species, to the increased frequency of extreme weather events. It is too late now to prevent this, but there is still time to lessen the impact. Scotland aims to be one of the world leaders in reducing the impact of global warming and to set an example to larger emitters such as the USA and the rest of the EU. To do this, we must all act wherever we can to make a difference. The costs for energy, raw materials and transport are increasing all the time because of increasing demand for and reduced supply of raw materials. In 1996, the government introduced the landfill tax to encourage waste producers to generate less waste, to recover more value from waste through recycling or composting, and to use waste disposal methods that have less impact on the environment. The landfill tax increases every year. From the 1st of April 2013, it is £72 per tonne, but this does not include the actual disposal costs. Therefore, to stay successful, it is essential that the amount of raw materials we use and the waste we dispose of are kept as low as possible. This can be done by ensuring you use equipment as efficiently as possible, get as much value as possible from any materials you use, investigate ways of preventing waste from being produced, and look at alternatives to landfill as a means of waste management. Throughout Scotland, many organisations are already beginning to save large amounts of money by becoming more energy efficient. By tackling energy usage, the Turnberry Resort has already saved £13,000 a year by upgrading its lights to light-emitting diodes. Once the project is complete, it expects to be saving £17,000 a year. Think Fitness, a health club in Howick, has reduced its energy bill by 70% by implementing a range of heating and lighting measures. Both of these organisations use simple, straightforward measures to achieve the savings, which have gone a long way to securing their future and the job security of their employees. They are also expecting further savings as staff change their behaviours and support the new energy-efficient technologies. Other organisations have managed to make substantial savings through reducing the amount of waste they produce. Dundonald Links, a golf course in Ayrshire, has managed to save £21,000 a year through successful waste segregation and identifying a way to reuse waste soil rather than paying for it to be collected. A more modest saving, but equally as important to the business, was identified by Bardyke Chemicals. By looking into its supply chain, the company has reduced the annual cost of packaging waste disposal by £2,000. Water efficiency savings are often the easiest for organisations to realise. Horsecross Arts, which runs Perth Concert Hall, managed to exceed its internal target of reducing water costs by 20%. This was achieved through numerous low or no cost measures, such as training cleaning staff to be more water efficient, ensuring all staff turn off taps that are not being used, and by altering the water cycle in urinals. The company managed to reduce their water costs by £7,200. Henderson's restaurant in Edinburgh also managed to make substantial changes with its water use and reduced their annual water costs by 33%. Saving £5,000. This was achieved by installing simple, low-cost measures such as cistern volume adjusters and passive red sensors. Several regulations have been introduced that cover duty of care obligations for organisations. One of the most important of these is to make sure that anyone who produces waste is also responsible for its disposal. This means we are responsible for all the waste that we produce, from when it is created right through to what our waste contractors do with it. Any company failing to comply with the regulations could be prosecuted and fined. If this happened to your organisation, it might cost a lot of money, but it could also mean that suppliers or customers do not want to do business in the future. Individual staff members and other organisations who have broken these laws have been fined or given community service orders. By January 2014, all businesses in Scotland will have to comply with the Waste Scotland regulations, which add new requirements to the laws on duty of care. This means it will soon be against the law for us not to separate dry recyclables from general waste. Dry recyclables include glass, paper, card, metal, and plastic. In addition, organisations that prepare or sell food may also need to separate food waste from all the other waste types. Another driver for change is that customers are putting organisations under increasing pressure to demonstrate commitment to the environment. In 2009, the Scottish Government made the promise that all public sector organisations in Scotland will only buy from businesses that demonstrate environmental awareness. The public sector is the part of the economy concerned with providing government services, including schools, hospitals, the police, fire service, local authorities and the military. In Scotland, this area of the economy is worth £9 billion a year. So a lot of companies are being pushed to consider their environmental responsibilities. One way of showing that they have done this is by reducing the amount of waste they produce and energy and water they consume. Many private sector organisations in Scotland have made public commitments to take more care over who they do business with. The bus company, Stagecoach, is committed to encouraging suppliers to improve their environmental standards. The Royal Bank of Scotland expects all suppliers to adhere to its environmental guidelines. The world-famous Gleneagles Hotel goes a step further by committing to change suppliers if existing ones are not able to become more environmentally friendly. Diageo, producers of Johnnie Walker whisky and other leading drink brands, aims to maintain high environmental standards amongst its suppliers and clients. More and more organisations are making promises like this, and we need organisations to make sure they are not left behind. We can now move on to find out how we do this. Here are some quick facts and figures to highlight just how much of a difference small changes in your behaviour can have on your organisation. Leaving the lights on in an average-sized staff toilet over the weekend will waste enough electricity to drive 125 miles in a small electric car. Turning the thermostat up by 2 degrees uses 16% more energy. For an office the size of a tennis court, this will waste enough energy to cook 575 pieces of toast each day. Forgetting to shut down a PC overnight for 1 week will waste enough energy to make over 500 cups of tea. And keeping a standard electric heater under your desk and using it for just 25% of the time the office is occupied could be costing your organisation over £125 a year. There are lots of myths about energy consumption. Many people will tell you to leave the lights on in a room rather than to turn them off because the energy used to turn the light back on is greater than the energy saved. This is simply not true. Only a small amount of energy is required to turn on modern fittings. When you're trying to warm or to cool a room, it's human nature to try to do so as quickly as possible. So when using a thermostat, some people set the temperatures higher or lower than what they want it to be, in the belief that desired temperature will be achieved quicker. This is also a myth. Heating or cooling systems will heat or cool at the same rate irrespective of the thermostat setting. However, it is likely that a comfortable temperature will be exceeded and the room will become too hot or too cold and mean that not only has energy been wasted, but extra energy may be needed to reduce or to increase the temperature back to the desired level. Many people also think that when leaving an appliance on standby, it uses no energy, and that when a screensaver is on, the energy consumption is reduced. Standby mode still consumes energy, but it is at a much reduced level. A screensaver is just a program being run by your computer, meaning your computer is working as hard as ever. So, how can you become more energy efficient? You can't easily install a new boiler or upgrade the lights, but you can make some small changes to your behaviour at work. If you are the last person leaving a room, turn off the lights. This is not only important at the end of the day, but at any time. If equipment is not being used, turn it off. Don't tamper with thermostats. They will have a set range that will maintain the desired temperature as energy efficiently as possible. If you think settings are wrong, you should mention this to whoever is in charge of your facilities management. If you're too hot, try opening a window first, though make sure the radiators and air conditioning are off. Wearing layers to work can make it a lot easier to heat up or cool down quickly, rather than having to rely on heating or air conditioning. Check how bright it is outside before turning all the lights on a room. This is especially relevant in winter, when artificial lighting may be required for a few hours in the morning, but by midday there is enough sunlight to turn the lights off. Only fill kettles with the amount of water you need. Overfilling a kettle can result in water being boiled several times for no purpose. Not only does this waste energy, but it also affects the taste of your tea. While recycling cans, glass or food waste, or reducing the amount of paper used for printing may seem insignificant, it really can make a significant difference over time. If only 10 people each recycled one fizzy drinks can per day, they will produce 36 kilograms of aluminium waste a year, which is enough to make 4 road bikes. The average cost of a ream of office paper is between £1.50 and £2. It is therefore assumed that printing is a relatively cheap activity. This results in a large amount of wasteful printing, which isn't worried about by most staff members. It has been estimated, however, that once ink, printer maintenance and disposal have been taken into account, that the average page of printed material has cost a business 13 pence. That is a cost of £65 per ream. If all the food waste in Scotland was sent for anaerobic digestion, this would offset the carbon footprint of both Samoa and Tonga combined. It has also been estimated that in Scotland alone, £2 billion worth of savings per year are available through low-cost and simple measures that cut waste. A wide variety of myths surround waste and recycling. It is not true that it takes more energy to recycle an aluminium can than it does to make it from scratch. Recycling aluminium is 20 times more efficient than making it from the raw materials. All recyclable materials do not get sent to China, because it is illegal to transport waste abroad for landfill. A more cynical viewpoint is that all waste just goes to landfill anyway. This would not make financial sense for any organisation, because recycling is on average 60% cheaper than general waste for collection. Another myth is that the Scottish Environment Protection Agency is going to be rooting around through bins in every effort to enforce the new regulations. SEPA will not be inspecting everyone's bins checking for recyclable materials. It is much more likely that your business will get identified by not complying with auditors for any accreditation you hold, or by environmental health. So, how should you go about helping your organisation to reduce its waste bills? First of all, you should prevent waste wherever possible. This will reduce the cost of disposal as well as any associated handling or purchase costs. If prevention is not an option, you should see if the item can be reused. It is only once prevention and reuse have been ruled out that recycling should be considered. This is when you should be careful to ensure that you comply with your organisation's segregation strategy. Let's now look at water. In the majority of businesses, taps and toilets are the major users of water. However, this does not mean there will be no waste. For example, if you leave a tap running for an hour, it will waste 480 litres, enough to fill 2 baths. A pipe leaking at 2 drops per second will waste 9,500 litres a year and cost £23 in water charges. Drops breaking into a stream will cost £75 a year, and a 3mm stream will waste 335,000 litres a year and cost your organisation £807. If any leaking water has been heated, then there will also be significant associated energy costs. There are also some common myths surrounding water efficiency in Scotland. One of the most common myths is that we have plenty of water in Scotland, so it doesn't matter how much we use. This is not true. Several droughts have hit areas of Scotland in recent years, and because of climate change, this can be expected to get worse. Another misconception is that water is free in Scotland. Just because you don't receive a water bill at home does not mean it is free. In fact, water rates are included in council tax. However, for organisations, they are charged for any water that they use. So at work, there are direct savings to be achieved through water efficiency. With water costs rising in line with energy costs, the drive for organisations to address this is increasing all the time. Some people believe that low-flow fixtures don't work. The average UK person uses 150 litres of water a day, so if low-flow taps, shower heads and water-saving flushes were installed as standard, this would reduce to 100 litres. Reducing water use can often be a quick and easy way to save money. Preventing wastewater is a lot simpler than preventing waste. Just follow these top tips for water conservation. Report leaks to management. Don't leave taps running. Don't leave any equipment running that uses water when not in use. Only use the water you need. And always look out for opportunities to save water that other people may have missed. If you have just joined your organisation, you are in a unique position to make a difference. You are not yet in a routine and have not got used to the things being done in a certain way. You must take advantage of this and look around for ways to be more resource efficient than the people who have been here for some time. If you've been here for a while, you should now view resource use differently. Do you think you will be able to spot the inefficiencies that others have missed? Are there any practices in your previous workplaces, school or college that could be introduced here? If you have any ideas to reduce energy or water use in the workplace or to prevent waste, don't keep it to yourself. Discuss it with your colleagues, and if they agree, speak to the appropriate manager or the green team. Let's look over the main points you need to remember again. Turn off lights and equipment when not in use. Dress appropriate for the temperature. Waste prevention and reuse are better than recycling. Make sure to put materials in a general waste bin only if all other waste management opportunities have been explored. Don't leave taps running. Report any water leaks as soon as you notice them. And make sure you share ideas with colleagues and management. If you are interested in learning more about waste and how to prevent it, why not do Resource Efficient Scotland's free online training package, the Green Champions Tool. The tool covers a wide range of resource efficiency topics and comprises of several modules, each of which will take less than 15 minutes to complete. Thank you for taking the time to listen to Resource Efficiency at Work. You are now ready to complete a short quiz to see how much you've learnt about resource efficiency in the workplace. With everything you have learnt during this session, you should be ready to help secure your organisation's long-term future by helping them to save money, reduce reliance on increasingly expensive resources, and have a positive impact on the environment.